I typed one paragraph into Claude Code. 10 minutes later, a law firm had a working internal app, a real database, live notifications, filterable by attorney. No agency, no developer, no code. I'm going to show you exactly what that prompt looks like and what it produces. Now, here's the problem we're trying to solve. If you run a law firm or really any professional services business, you would have a spreadsheet called, say, a case tracker or a matter tracker, and it works until it doesn't. Someone updates the status of a particular case or doesn't, and then nothing happens. No notifications, no paper trail, no way to know if the right person saw it. Matters don't fall through the cracks because people are careless. They fall through because a spreadsheet is a passive system. It just sits there. What we're building today is something different. Someone changes the status of a case, and the moment they do, the right people know about it automatically. What we're building today is a full internal matter tracker. It's going to be a real web app with a dashboard, status tracking, attorney assignment, and automated email notifications when anything changes. I'll show you the finished thing in a second, and then we can start building live. So here's what the app looks like. I know it's very simple. It's got all of the different columns, but the magic is if you're to click on this row and you want to change the status from, say, needs attention to in review, and you save it and it says matter saved at the bottom, voila, you have an email that says the matter Acme Corp has been moved to status in review. Isn't that wonderful? This is what it looks like when it comes to how we will be building today. So we're going to have a one paragraph prompt for Claude Code. We're going to send it to Claude Code, and then it's going to spin up this matter tracker app for us in Next.js. It's also along the way going to ask us a lot of questions about what we want to include in the app. We're then going to go to Supabase and going to create a database manually to connect to our app. We're then also going to again use Claude Code maybe to create a new N8N workflow that is going to send us the Gmail notification whenever the status of a matter is updated. Now, before we head into Claude Code and Visual Studio Code to build out our app, I wanted to introduce you to this Superpowers skill. And this is a skill I've downloaded inside my Claude Code. So it spins up every time I start building something. And so what this is able to do is it's an open source project, first of all, and it's got about 200,000 stars, which means it must be good. And so what it does is allows the skill to ask you a bunch of questions, which is going to tease out the exact requirements of what you're building instead of just diving in and starting to code. What this helps with is in case Claude Code is going down the wrong path, you don't have lost tokens along the way before you start off a new different correct path. And so Superpowers allows you to make your development process much more organized. And once a plan is set up, which it does, it then launches a sub-agent driven development process, which has agents work through each of the tasks that were identified in the plan. So now this does consume a lot of tokens up front, but then once the plan is set, you can be sure that whatever it is that you set out to do is going to be accomplished in the way that you want it. So I definitely recommend installing this particular skill. And the way to do it is if you just go to a Claude Code CLI inside of Visual Studio, copy this command and paste it. It's just going to install the skill for you. We're back inside Visual Studio Code. What I've done is on the left, you'll see I have a law firm matter tracker. So this can just be a simple folder on your Mac or PC. And you open up Visual Studio Code with this filter. Of course, I have my Claude Code extension also activated. And here is the prompt we're going to use. We're saying build a Next.js app for a law firm's internal matter tracker. Use Supabase as the database. The dashboard should show all matters in a table with columns, and I've listed the columns. There's also a form to create a new matter with all of those fields. The status is a drop down. It has these fields, and clicking a matter opens a detailed view where any field can be edited and saved. We're also saying that when a status is updated, and this is the piece where we're going to send a Gmail notification, we want to send a post request to an N8N webhook URL. We're giving it the variable name, and then we're saying, hey, use Tailwind CSS for styling, etc. Store the Supabase URL and anon key as these two variables. And we're going to hit it, and we're going to see what happens next. All right, so you can see it started to go. It's listed all of these steps already. It's setting up the different components. And there we go. It's saying it's ready in localhost. But first, we still need to connect our database, remember? So let's move over to Supabase and see how to set that up. If you've never used Supabase before, it's basically a Postgres development platform that is very user-friendly. This is what the homepage looks like, and once you create an account and sign in, you would be asked to create your own organizations. So for me, I've said it's Airbus's org, and these are my projects within it. After that, what you need to do is click on Create a New Project. It'll ask you to name your project and also enter a password for your database of your choice. Once you have that, the project will show up as a tile over here. You click on it, and this is what it's going to look like. After this, there's two things that we need for us to be able to connect our app to this database. First of all, if you go to the left panel and click on project settings, you'll be taken here, and the project ID is what we need to pick up. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to go back to Visual Studio Code, and inside our .env local file, we need to provide that ID that we copied as the next public Supabase URL. But make sure you attach an HTTPS in front of it before you paste the key. The next thing that we need is, under the same settings, if you go to API keys, go to legacy anon service role API keys, and this is the one that you need, the anon public. You copy it, and then once you've copied it, your Visual Studio Code, and this is where you paste it. And the N8N webhook URL is something that Claude Code itself will give you. The next thing to do is, of course, that we need to create a Supabase table, right? Which is where all of our fields and data from the app that we're creating will get stored. So Claude Code and Superpowers already gives you a script to run, which will help you create that table. So let's take a look as to how to use that. I'm going to hit copy from here, go back to Supabase, and on the left panel we have table editor. So I'm going to click on there. And if you click on this plus icon, it says create a table. Click that, give the detail, and then you can either create it this way, which is a manual way of entering the column names, or you can create it as a script, which is what I did. Actually, you need to go to SQL editor, and that's where you can create this. And so under SQL editor, you copy paste what you copied from Visual Studio Code and you hit run. Once you hit run, you're going to see success, no rows returned. And then once this is successful, if you come back to table editor is when you'll start to see your matters table, right? So it's going to have a client ID, it's going to have an ID, a client name, a matter type, and assigned attorney, all of the different fields that your app will contain. And that's all with the database setup. Let's now move to our N8N workflow. We're back inside Visual Studio Code. You'll see that it says that it's opened the app in localhost 3000. So let me go to my Chrome, and this is where it resides. I've already gone ahead and created a record, otherwise it would have been blank when you initially open it, of course. So let's try this real time and see what it looks like. So I'm going to click on new matter. This is the modal that opened up, and I've filled out the fields already. I'm going to click on save, and you'll see that this has now appeared. Initially, the status is set to active. This is looking nice and clean, but now comes the next part. What if you want to change the status to something else? And it should also trigger an email notification to our team email address, right? For this, you need an N8N workflow. At least that's what I prefer doing. And this is what that N8N workflow looks like. 3 simple nodes. The first one is the webhook. So when I open this up, this is a URL you can set yourself. I mean, it can be anything that you desire. But of course, you should make sure that when you go back to Claude Code, this is the URL that should be in the code as well. Because when you're clicking on any status change update over here, this is the URL that it's calling. Right, so this is simple enough. You'll see it has both a test and a production URL. Make sure that after you make this workflow active and that it is published in N8N, this is the URL that your code is using. After that, it's gonna send the status update, and I've chosen just my personal email address for now. And then for the message, it's nice and simple. It is saying matter, and then this piece is basically taking information from the webhook, which is the matter name, has been moved to status, and then it's picking up the new status change from the webhook. And basically when you make the change over here, that information gets transferred over to the webhook. And then finally, you're responding to the webhook with a simple OK, true. And I'll link this workflow as well as the JSON file if you guys like. But then now that this is set up, you'll see that I have published my workflow. I also want to show you though, that once we created this record, let's see if it exists in our database. And so right now you'll see it already has the new client. That's still correct. And you'll see that the status of it currently is in active state. And so let's try to click on this and change it to something else. So let's move it to in review and click on save. Once we've done that, the first thing I want to check is if it changed in here. So it still says active. That's because this is not refreshed. So I'm going to click refresh and you'll see it's now moved to in review. I'm going to go to my workflow and I'm going to go to executions. You'll see that the most recent execution has succeeded, which means it's received the info correctly, already sent the email and responded. And so let's go see what the email looks like and if we've even received it. All right, so you'll see I've received an email that says matter status update. Matter distill, the one that we just created, has been moved to status in review. Isn't that amazing? You can configure the status update to even go to a Slack channel where your team resides or the people in charge of needing to know what this status change are in that particular group. You can send it as an email, etc. But as soon as you make that status update, you will get notified. Here's what most people miss when they see Claude Code build something like this. They think impressive, but I need a developer to maintain it. And they're wrong, because the same way that you described it initially is the same way you start to change it. So if a law firm needs, say, a new column for billing hours, then they type that. If they want a new filter, they type that. The prompt isn't just how you build the first version, it's how you iterate on the whole thing. What Claude Code actually eliminates is the bottleneck of you having to explain what you want to someone else and having to wait before anything changes. The gap between I have an idea to it exists used to cost months and thousands of dollars. Now it costs an afternoon. So that's what one single Claude Code session produces for a professional law firm. A real internal tool connected to a real database, sending real notifications. No developer, no agency, no waiting. If you run a business where active work is still being done inside of a spreadsheet, this is worth paying attention to. Subscribe if you want to keep seeing what's possible with these tools. I'm building more of these each week. And if you know someone who's running a law firm or a consulting practice, send this to them. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.